One, and we're live. Welcome, everybody, to A Nice Place to Brew. I'm Jason.
And I'm Polly.
George will be joining us momentarily, but welcome to our last webcast of the year 2020. Round of applause. Yay! We're almost done. We're almost there, people.
Oh, thank God.
Thank you so much for joining us. We do our webcast every Thursday, although it's Wednesday, here on the YouTube and Facebook page. Our YouTube page has all of our past episodes, so if you can't wait until next Thursday to catch us again, check out our YouTube page for all of our past episodes. We also have an audio podcast under the same name, A Nice Place to Brew. It's available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and all the places you get your podcasts from. Our website is www.aniceplacetobrew.com, and our social media links are A Nice Place to Brew and Nice Place to Brew. Paulie and I were just talking a second ago about a barrel that based on a special appearance. And if you're lucky enough to win a raffle at the now world famous Route 66 Old School Brewing in Wilmington, Illinois, you can walk home with about a 20-gallon barrel. Is that right, Polly?
Correct. Yeah, I filled up a half barrel and a six-fill with it today. Or not today.
That's awesome.
Last week, yeah.
So how does one participate in said raffle?
You have to come down to the brewery and $10 for a raffle ticket, and then we'll draw your name out of it. So
if meeting the world famous Polly, head brewer for Route 66 Old School Brewing, is not enough to bring you out to Wilmington, Illinois, well, how about having a chance to win a barrel? Okay, now you have two very, very good reasons, in addition to Polly's amazing beer. So get out to Route 66 Old School Brewing in Wilmington, Illinois, people. All right? George, welcome, sir.
Oh, is that your 2020 beer?
Uh-oh.
It looks
See
like
that's like the worst pour ever.
Where did you learn to pour a beer? How about that?
It just didn't work out. Hey, Jason and Polly, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good, man. Good. All right. Well, this is appropriate time to talk about what we're drinking. So, George, what are you drinking that was poured so poorly?
So poorly, well, it came out of one of these guys, and it is the Four Horsemen of Hellas. And it is from a brewery called Iron Pipe here in Orange, Virginia. So little tiny little brewery that makes some pretty good stuff. So,
Can we see the artwork once again?
it's not really. It's just their standard kind of artwork here.
All right. Okay. Got
It's
it.
unique to the beer.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Polly, what do you got, sir?
I'm going after George's heart right now. My very first Saison that I've done. Oh, now he leaves as I'm talking about it. Really, George? Oh,
Yeah.
All right. My Saison that I brewed, that's how most of it's going into a red wine, Cabernet barrel. I'll probably be putting it into the left side barrel tomorrow. Let me see. Maybe I can get that shot. That middle barrel right there?
Yes.
Middle
Perfect.
No, but
All right.
George, I'm after your heart right now. This is my Saison.
Nice.
7.7%.
Yeah.
It's got all the banana and clover and the spiciness that you look for in a Belgian. Which, believe it or not, the first time I've ever used a dry yeast on a Belgian, and sells me again on the whole dry yeast thing. All you homebrewers out there, don't be afraid of the dry yeast. It's well worth it. It's well worth it.
Well said.
Did you rehydrate or just straight pitch?
Straight pitch that shit.
Straight pitch? All right.
Yeah. Just dump it right into the fermenter. That's all you gotta do.
We just got a thumbs up right when you said straight pitch that shit. So a shout out to Sean from Mad Hatchet Brewing out of Shorewood, Illinois. Hello, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm pretty sure that's where the thumbs up came from. So hope you're happy early New Year to you and cheers. All right. So I want to talk about this beer that's in front of me right now.
Okay.
So this was gifted to me over this past weekend. This is from Old Nation Brewing Company out of Wilmington, Michigan. This is a beer called Electron Brown. Electron Brown is an espresso bean double brown ale, 8.1%.
Ooh,
So
wow.
for
8.1, okay.
yes, so for coffee beer lovers, this beer hits on a lot of those cylinders. The coffee comes through very, very strong, and I should have prefaced this by saying, if you're a black coffee drinker, this beer is right up your alley because wow, is the coffee strong in this. So much so that all the rest of the beer is just lost. And I can't give this beer a real good rating just based on my own taste profile because that chalkiness is just too overpowering.
Did they say what kind of coffee they use, Jason?
Espresso bean. Let's see.
Didn't say the roaster.
Yeah, that's as specific as it gets. Espresso bean.
Okay.
So espresso beans, so it's gonna be a darker roast, probably for the coffee nerds out there. Second crack, full city, espresso kind of. So it's be darker. You're gonna get a lot more of those roasty notes and some of that kind of. I don't want to exactly call it burnt, but that kind of like char flavor that you get on the darker roasted beers.
And that's exactly what comes through.
Okay.
So drinking this beer, I'm getting some ideas in my head. So I'm glad I'm drinking this beer because I wouldn't have thought of these things otherwise. I think my next home brewing project is going to be a coffee stout, and I'm going to do it my way.
Okay.
I want to balance out the coffee with some sweetness and maybe even lactose. So how does that sound? A coffee milk stout.
I can see that.
Well, I mean,
Fish, go ahead, George. Say what you're gonna say.
We lost you, Polly. Get off mute.
yeah, you're muted, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
I accidentally unplugged my little headphone thingy.
Oh, okay.
No, like what I do when I'm making my coffee porters that I've been doing here is I cold brew all my coffee to where pretty much I'm just using my beer as the water and then I'm cold brewing for 24 hours. And
Okay.
I found a great roaster here in Chicago called Metric Coffee that I've been using. Actually, the last 3 coffee beers I made, and I think I'm going to exclusively use those for the most part and rotate every now and then. Maybe try Intelligentsia or a few other places too, just to see other coffee. But usually when I'm doing it, I'm just jumping a sixtel, doing a 5-gallon thing. So for Jason, I would love that. Maybe Jason, when you do that, I'll come over and we'll hang out and do a brew day again.
Sounds like a plan.
We can make George jealous again and go the Goldfinger again. Yeah.
We certainly can. But George will be laughing at us because reality is, Paulie, we're getting into January, so we're going to have to brave the elements to be part of that.
Well, I was a plumber for 20
true.
years. I'm not a pussy. I can sit out in the cold.
You're stronger than I am. I'll say it here. I'm Jason from A Nice Place to Brew, and I am a pussy when it comes to weather. There you go. There's a public record of it.
Maybe we should have got you a pair of long underwear for Christmas or something.
I've got plenty of that here at the house. It only goes so far, though.
All right.
I'm telling you.
So what I was going to say is, the other thing I'd add to your stout, if you prefer, less dark roast and things, you could go a little bit more towards the lighter roast, kind of nutty flavored coffee beans. And that, especially if you're planning on doing a sweet stout, that might complement that pretty well. And I have a buddy of mine that owns a coffee roasting place here in town that I could ask him if he has any thoughts on which kinds you could use to best achieve that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it. Sending links out.
Yeah. Polly, if you ever tried, I tried their coffee a few times and I really liked it while I was out there. 10 Drops over by Chicago Brew Works. Did you ever try them?
No, I haven't. I know everything about them, and I know the guy that used to work there was a home brewer. And if you wanted to do something with coffee, you go talk to whoever this guy was, and he would ask you like brewing technical questions, and he would give you whatever roast they had that he would think would go good with what you're doing.
Right.
I think his name was Brian. I could totally be wrong on the name, but
It sounds familiar, but I'm not entirely sure. Yeah.
I think his name was Brian. Actually, it's a friend of mine. I believe son-in-law now. 'Cause I think they got married. But
Okay.
one of the lady that works with me at Brew and Grow, it's her daughter. At the time, it was her daughter's boyfriend, but I think they got married. So now it's Eileen's son-in-law. If
Right on.
I think if it's the
Yeah.
same thing I'm talking about, because I know they're all part of that evil homebrew group that we had over the day that I wasn't on.
We won't speak of them.
Of course.
I know. I just had to throw that out there, just to throw a little bit JBG rivalry in there.
Mhm.
So how was everybody's Christmas?
Good.
Yeah? Anybody
Yeah.
do anything fun and exciting? I just hung out with my family. That's all I did. And watched Cobra Kai again.
Yeah.
I did. Did anyone do anything brewing related? Paulie, were you? Did you have a batch going?
No, actually, on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, I was down here at the brewery. I had to cold brew my coffee porter that had to be ready on Saturday. So
Okay.
Christmas Eve, I kind of took the day off. I did some Christmas shopping. I bought some coffee because the coffee that I ordered didn't show up yet. And by the time I got down here, the coffee was there. So I was like, oh, I'll just put this off to the side and use this. And so I did that. And I was carbonating up these barrel aged stuff that we were talking about earlier. So I had tasted those and got them going. And then I came back on Christmas Day to try those barrel aged beers, and then pull my coffee beans out of my cold brew and get everything ready. It was kind of nice. I was only here for an hour on Christmas Day, but the little bit of work that I did here stopped me from coming down here the day after Christmas before I had to go to Brew and Grow.
So quietly segueing into today's topic, being that that's the type of beer that you were making, how did your water profile fit with those recipes?
Good. I mean, granted, I used my beer as my water for the cold brew. I didn't just cold brew with water. I just put so many ounces of coffee into a corny keg, and then just racked on top of that. Let it sit for 24 hours. Pulled it, tried it.
Okay.
That's how I've been doing it, and it's been a hit. I mean, this one that I did called the Percolator. This is the second time I've done it because it was such a hit that my regulars wanted it again. So, I'll probably end up doing a rotation of coffees. So,
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if you could do, even if you just grab some corny kegs and racked on top of a bunch of different types of beans, like espresso beans and regular Arabica and a light roast, and try those and kind of do a little bit of a coffee flight for your customers out of the same beer, just on different beans, and see what they think.
see, I could do that.
I like that idea.
I like that idea too, but with my taps being full, finally, thank God, I only have one tap that's a rotating coffee one. So it'd be one to where we do one that blows, I do another one that blows. So you'd have to come down. You'd have to be a regular to come down here and try them all, and then give me your
Or
input.
picnic tap with a like go old school with it. Just have a couple picnic taps and on some
true.
corny kegs.
That's true. Yeah.
What you're saying is I need to drill a hole through my walk-in cooler and have the picnic tap just hanging outside.
Oh, when? Yes.
All right. Well, I'll talk to the owners about that one. No guarantees.
Okay.
Well, to all the first-time listeners out there, for anybody who's listening for the first time, I wanted to wish you a welcome. This is a nice place to brew. We call this show All Things Beer and Beer Making. This is our weekly webcast. We do this typically every Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We're doing it Wednesday this week in line with the upcoming New Year. So welcome, everybody. We have a back catalog available on our YouTube channel. We've been doing weekly episodes since the beginning of COVID-19. And tonight we're here. Our topic for tonight is going to be brewing water. We're going to cover the things that you need to know and probably a lot of stuff that you may not need to know so much. So I guess the start of this topic is around tools. Do we agree?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So we'll get into water profiles for the respective three of us later on in the discussion. But I think the tools is the ideal place to start because if you choose to delve into water chemistry to any degree, you're going to be using one of a couple of things. George and I advocate for use of a tool called the Brew and Water Calculator. And for those homebrewers out there that are not familiar with that, you can do a Google search and I'll spell it out for you. BRU _N water calculator. And it's an Excel spreadsheet where you build your water profile based on a report that you have. You input your grain bill, and then you have a chance to modify based on the water profile that you're trying to achieve. What I was saying earlier about the things that you need to know versus the things that you don't know, if you have no interest in water chemistry at all, this is all you need. This is start to finish. Everything you need to know about water chemistry is just being able to use this Excel spreadsheet. I fit that profile. I am not a science nerd. I have no interest in water chemistry, but I can use water chemistry because I know how to use the spreadsheet. So if that's not a selling point for the Brew and Water Calculator, I don't know what is. George, what am I missing?
If you want to get what you're missing is if you want to get even more stupidly simple, and you're willing to shell out a little bit of money, the Beersmith app actually has a water profile calculator built into it now, where you literally put in what your water profile is and hit go, and it uses your recipe that you have to just create a water profile for you. So it's more of an automatic process than even brewing water is.
But that being said, you have to spend the money on the Ward Laboratory water profile. Ward Laboratory water when they analyze your water, and then that's what I did.
Unless you live in a municipality where you can get it from the city, then you can be reasonably sure that is accurate to your water.
Yeah, see, I don't trust that. I would still send it out to a lab to test this on the norm. I mean, it depends on your water. I just recently did that, and it was $45. So it's not free, but it's not that bad. Yeah. So well, who'd you use? Did you use Ward? Who'd you use?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ward.
See, it only cost me $35 to do it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they got a homebrew.
Are they judging you because
did you order their package, or did you?
Yeah.
How did you do it?
Yeah, they said. Okay. I'm sitting here one day. I didn't have much going on. I was watching a YouTube video, and a girl hands me a box. I'm like, oh, hey, look, it's Warren Labs, and I followed directions, and I sent it off to them, and then all of a sudden, about a week later, I get the email back, and it's kind of beautiful because they have it all printed out for you, and you go into your Beersmith thing, and you put in that things that they want, and bam. Like I've been using it for a while. Like Jason, when you tried that APA a few weeks ago, that was actually the first beer that I used the water chemistry app on.
and the learning curve was not too bad, wasn't it?
No,
Not
I
at all.
mean the only
Nice.
thing was I was like, I need 100 grams of gypsum. That don't seem right.
Yet it is.
It's just having the supplies around to then manage it. Yeah, that's a good point. So it may be helpful to share with everybody what these water profiles look like, and then let's get into the tools later on. But
Okay.
I've got my water profile for here in Darien, Illinois. This was taken 2+ years ago, so I can't speak to the accuracy of this today. But I'm assuming that unless the city of Darien has drastically changed the way that they manage their water, that this is still fitting. So
You're still on.
So here you go.
You're still on Chicago water though, right?
So yes, we are fortunate here in the Darien, Illinois area, being in the suburbs of Chicago. Our local water does come to us via Lake Michigan. So, and this is what the water looks like. It's mid-range pH. It's fairly low on the mineral scale, with one glaring exception in total hardness.
Okay, I'm laughing at that, and you'll know why in a second. Pay attention to your total dissolved solids, but yes, let's keep going.
Only 199.
199. Yep.
Okay. Wait. Okay. I'm guessing you have a comparison that looks differently, so we'll talk about that. Yeah. Yeah. But anyways, for those of you who are listening who may be in the greater Midwest area, and let's say if you live in the Chicagoland area, or maybe even just around the Great Lakes, whether that be Michigan, Pennsylvania, Western New York, hello Scott, Wisconsin, your water profile is probably going to look relatively similar to this if your water is being serviced by this. And these water profiles are seen in the brewing area as fairly basic and pretty easy to work with brewing water. So if you happen to live in the Midwest and you're on one of the Great Lakes systems, you're in a pretty good spot as a home brewer.
You could even say it's a nice place to brew.
Yeah, I like where you went with that one, George.
Jeez.
So, Jason,
is this a dad jokes episode?
So,
I did promise that we'd make water fun for the
Okay, all right, fair enough. Fair enough.
So, Jason, did you get the picture I sent you? Because I got that. I actually got my sheet in front of me.
Yes.
So pull that one up.
Hang on, Paulie. Before you go on that, I did notice one thing. Your bicarbonates were the high part that I saw on yours, Jason, at 130 some. The water profile that you guys have out there is going to lend it, in my opinion, is going to lend itself more towards like darker beers, ambers, stouts, and things like that because of that. That's the same kind of like high bicarbonate levels that you'll have.
True.
On like what is it? Something on Trent that I can't remember off the top of my head, but that kind of water that you find in that area that is really prevalent to like Guinness and that brown ale that I can't really remember that is super famous and comes from the UK, and those kinds of places that has those higher bicarbonate levels. Newcastle, thank you, yes. And so you're going to have to do some modifications in the other direction in order to remove that from your water in order to make it more compatible with the lighter Helles, Pilsner, and things like that. So it's doable, but you're going to have to make some modifications in that direction more than you will for the darker beers.
That's a great point for us to illustrate, and let's talk about what it is that actually brings that into healthy levels, because there's really one thing, and that's where your acids come in, and that's the main function of acids when you're adding to your mash, is to lower those bicarbonates that are made up in the liquid. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, lactic acid is a really good way to do that. Phosphoric acid is another way, but it's really aggressive. Lactic acid is a lot easier to work with.
Yep.
And the good news is you have properly basic water of just what was it, 7.5. So it's just a little bit higher on the base scale. So when you do put that acid in and you drive down the pH, it doesn't get to untenable ranges for those those lighter beers. If you did have water that was a little bit more acidic, say like 6.0 or lower sixes, driving that down with lactic acid, you're going to have a little bit of trouble with balancing the pH along with the bicarbonate levels in there. But you guys have, like I said, a little bit more basic water, which will make that easier.
Exactly. So let's talk about another location, shall we? I have Paulie's water profile in front of me, and I'm going to share that here in a second. But Paulie, do you want to tee this up? So we're going from an area that's serviced by the Great Lakes for a water supply. The area where you're at is different, though.
Yes, my water supply is coming from a river. My water supply is the Kankakee River from the Midwest.
Okay.
And I'd like you to key it up because I couldn't see what the Chicago one was. I'd like to see what the pH, the bicarbonate, and the total hardness difference was. So, because Jason, you're with you, I'm sure you got it in front of you. What is your pH of your water?
So I cannot share these both side by side, but I've got two monitors here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep it on this, and I'll answer whatever questions I need to on mine.
All right. Mine's at 7.5. What is Lake Michigan at?
7.5.
All right. Bicarbonates was mine are at 67. What's Lake
67.
Michigan?
That's low.
Bicarbonates. Mine are at 130. That is interesting. That is way lower.
That is way lower.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
What was the other one that he said? What did you say, George? You had bicarbonates.
Well, total dissolved solids. If you look at that, yours is now, while your bicarbonates are lower, your total dissolved solids are much higher at 295. So you have what would be harder water. Like if you look at your total hardness of 168, so that's going to be much harder water, and you're going to definitely need to do some treatment with probably no matter what kind of beer you're looking to make there, Paulie. Yeah.
I get that. And then the other one was bicarbonates. I see mine are at 67. Jason, what are yours at?
130.
See, I'm lower on 2 or 3, and or lower on a couple, and I'm higher on the other. So yeah, my water's a little bit harder than yours because yours is probably treated more with salts and like salts make it soft water, like a water softener. So your
the one that's
could be
the one that's jumping out at me, Paulie, is the calcium. Because Jason, what was your calcium at?
40, higher than his.
Oh,
28.6.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's real low.
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of funny because like now that I've been playing around with this, like today, in the said fermenter right here, I did my version of a Miller light lager, yellow fizzy beer bullshit with these people that like to drink Budweiser, and like I only did like maybe a total of like 30-40 grams of salt total. But then like the whole, like Sean keeps saying, the whole Beersmith thing, you put this water report into your Beersmith or whatever software you use, you go click, and next thing you know, it's like everything's written out for you. Makes life a lot easier.
It absolutely does. Paulie, when you're doing your mineral additions, what's the dominant one? Where are you compensating, most heavily?
Gypsum. I would say gypsum.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, gypsum.
So, George, you may know this right away. So, there's a couple of common water elements that brewers use to enhance their water, and gypsum is one of those. And those are compounds that have two different minerals that they contribute to the water. And the combination of those two is going to be different based on the mineral.
Yes.
And gypsum is, what are the two minerals on there?
Gypsum and calcium chloride are the two that are most commonly added. On top of that, you will also have baking soda and Epsom salts that are secondary to that.
Okay, so where I was going was the actual chemical compound itself. So gypsum will contribute added calcium and also added sulfites to the water profile.
Oh, yes, it will. Yes, you're correct.
Yep. So before we get, because I wanna then share the screen and show exactly what this calculator looks like. But before we do that, George, would you be so kind as to share what your water profile looks like?
Absolutely.
Because I think this is going to be quite an education.
I actually have an interesting thing because, okay, so you both are on municipal water sources and go through treatment plants and things like that. Mine, however, is a little bit different, and I'm sharing it if you want to add it in, Jason.
Yes.
Mine's a little bit different because I'm on a well. So mine goes down to a pretty deep aquifer, and it's actually fairly stable. One of the things you'll notice is the image on the left is my water profile from 3 years ago, and then the image on the right is my water profile from last month. And so one of the things I was kind of laughing a little bit because you were saying about your dissolved solids, mine are 59. I have very, very soft water here. And that was actually 3 years ago. Now it's at 53.
Okay.
So I have a pH of 6.9, so almost completely neutral water. And then you'll notice everything else from sodium to potassium to calcium to magnesium, all very, very low in that. Now, this works in a couple different ways for me. One, it really works for me if I want to make a lager, if I want to make a lighter beer and things like that. I don't have to do a lot to my water because it's fairly neutral. However, I am dumping minerals in my water if I want to make
Can you close out one of these windows? Is that possible? Sure. I'm having a really hard time seeing these numbers.
Okay. Let me do that. Is that helping?
Keep going.
Keep going?
Yep. There you go. Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
Not a problem. All right. So this is my water profile from last month. So you'll notice that the things that should jump out at you probably is my nitrate levels are a little bit higher. This was actually almost double 3 years ago because I am in an aquifer that is right below farmland. And you'll have a lot of that because of the manure treatments and things people do on their lands tends to seep down into the aquifer. So our nitrate levels tend to be a little bit higher.
So just by comparison, it's 0.3 for here in the Midwest Great Lakes region.
Right. And 0.8, not bad. You know, in fact, it's even 1.6, which is what it was 3 years ago, is not bad.
I'm at 0.5 down here.
Okay. All right. So that's it's perfectly safe, not a problem. But you will notice it's a little bit higher. Everything else you're going to notice is pretty much lower.
Sulfate's very low. Wow.
Sulfate's very low. Potassium is less than 1. Sodium is 9. Like calcium, you guys said was in 20s and 30s. Mine's 5.6. So wow. It lets you know like the big difference between your how you get your water and how it gets exposed. Especially there's a big difference between aquifer water and water that is exposed. If you get water from, if your river sources like if you were to pull water out of the I&M Polly, or if you were to I've got the Rapidan River, which would be like a really neat place to get water from. But that's going to be a lot more variable and a lot more have a lot more dissolved solids because of it's exposed, whereas the aquifer is going to be a lot more stable in there.
I get that. And then actually I'm thinking about, because after talking to a few people up in this area, because they found out my water source, I'm thinking I almost want to get a water report every season. Winter, summer, fall, spring. Yeah. Because like right now, it's kind of funny. Like when I was texting you guys earlier, when I make this light lager, I was able to get my work down to pitching temperature coming out of my counterflow chiller. It was coming out at like 55 degrees.
Wow.
Because the river it's been cold up here, and the river water is so cold.
Yeah.
Me and Jason were talking about it. Like, I remember one time we were brewing. It's like I had to go, and I'm like, how the heck am I going to get this warmer? It's coming out like 65 degrees. Well, I figured out how to do that. And you know what I do is I throttle the water coming out of my tap. I just have it slowly coming out. And I can, like, if I'm using Quebec yeast, if I'm doing something with a Quebec yeast, I could throttle that back and have it come out at 100 degrees.
Right.
But that's me literally sitting there watching it, walking over the tap, slowing it, turn it up. That's where I'm going to see Jason over here be like, hey, close it, open it. Don't hit that valve. Close it, open it.
Sounds about right.
Sounds right. Yeah. So in the past 3 years, two things happened. Number one, natural changes in the aquifer, and the other thing that happened was between the original one and this one is I put in a whole house filter that is that includes my garden hose, because they ran my garden hose underneath my sink. So anything that comes out of my garden hose is also run through my whole house filter. The biggest change. No, I don't need it. Yeah. The biggest change I saw between then and now when it came to the whole house filter is my total iron fell through the floor. It was, I believe, 30. I might be thinking of that wrong here. Let me see. Let me pull up the old report real quick. No, 0.3. 0.3. Which is high for iron in a report like this. But in the now that I have that whole house filter on, now it's less than 0.01. So that was the biggest change that I saw.
See, this is very eye-opening for me, because being here in the Midwest, a lot of people say that Midwestern water out of the Great Lakes is very neutral and very healthy for brewing with. Mm-hmm. I echo the point about being healthy to brew with, but reading this profile, like, you're painting the picture for neutral water far more than what I have.
Yeah,
like, I mean, far more.
You know, one of the things, if you truly want truly neutral water that you then have to add everything to, but you know what it is every time, the best way to do that is to put it in an RO system.
Well, you're almost there just based on this water profile.
Right. But when I considered that when I first got here, and then when I got my water profile, I was like, oh, well, hell, I don't really need to, because my total dissolved solids is so
not at
low.
All.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's what I'm working with here.
So, same question to you. When you're building a water profile, what are you adding the most?
Gypsum and calcium chloride. I'm adding both of those almost every time.
Okay, so we're all in the same boat, because those are my largest two additions as well, besides acid. And we're going to talk about acid in more detail once we open up the calculator, but that's interesting. We're three different people. We're on three very different water systems, but we're both using the same elements most heavily.
We are, and when I say that, I mean, like, even if I'm making a Pilsner or a Helles, like, you guys are probably not adding as much gypsum or calcium chloride. You're probably adding like lactic acid and maybe some Epsom salts and things more along those lines.
Yep.
I'm still adding gypsum and calcium chloride, just because my water is so neutral and low on dissolved solids that I need to add those minerals in order to kind of bring it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally get it. Shall we talk about the calculator?
Absolutely.
All right, cool. So, what does all this mean? Let's start to color that in.
All right.
So all that data.
Things about this.
Oh, it's fantastic. Once you understand how it works, well, I shouldn't even say how it works, but just once you understand how to navigate through it and you build your initial profile based on what that water sheet says, this is a game changer for your homebrew. I believe that very strongly.
Right.
Yeah. So
and honestly, it's a rather inexpensive one too. I mean, we talk about
I agree.
things of how do you take beer from good to great without a whole lot of expenditure. You buy a little thing of gypsum, and it lasts for a long time. You know, like a year of constant brewing. You won't go through a bottle of gypsum, that kind of thing. So it's definitely worth it.
Absolutely. So for the price of a water analysis, which in some towns, if you have access to a full water profile that gives you all these data points, it's free.
Mm-hmm.
Worst case scenario, you reach out to a company like Ward Labs, which we just looked at. You can pay somewhere between $35 and $45, and you have a base to build water profiles for the rest of your home brewing life. That is absolutely money well spent. When you think of the alternative is, number one, you can just negate this entirely and use your local water and just whatever your profile is, or you may spend a lot of excess money using spring water or some other water source, processed water that you would use instead. George, you and I started our home brewing lives using that. Not knocking that, but it's an added expense. So just start doing the math on that. It quickly pays for itself. Just doing a water analysis and then adding these little volumes of salts. It's well worth it. So, and I'm sure, I'm sure for everybody out there who's listening, hello everybody. By the way, this is a nice place to brew. This is about all things beer and beer making, and tonight we're talking about brewing water. We're looking at the Brew and Water calculator. You can't. I don't know if you can see the file name here, but this is the spelling. So if you carefully type this into Google, you'll find this. This is accessible, I believe, everywhere, and it's just an Excel file. And we're going to go through just how this whole thing works. So.
Yep. So just to hit, Sean said after seeing my water, he's kind of jealous of it. He says all of their water goes through 2 carbon filters, a softener, and RO in order to,
all 3
neutralize. Apparently, all 3 in order to neutralize all dissolved solids, make it as blank slate as possible, and then he probably adds in a crap ton of salts, depending on what he's making. So
I have so many questions. How does the RO system itself not take care of that? That's a
RO systems. Yeah, RO systems are good, but if you most of the time, if you really want to zero out your water, you do have to go through some kind of preamp phases on that. So yeah. And apparently he's not a fan of Shorewood water.
Okay, point well taken. Sean, if you're having to go through all that, I echo your frustration. Well, anyways, George, can you take us through this page?
Yeah, sure. So, you saw the different water reports that Jason, Polly, and I had. And basically everything you'll see on there, or everything you can get from a municipal water source, you plug into here. And when you do that, you just literally lift the numbers off that page and you plug them in here. And this gives Brew and Water a base to say, this is what the water that I'm going to be working with for the calculations.
Same data from the sheet.
Right, and it defaults to Freedom units with the gallons, but if you're using liters, you can make that switch up top there. And you'll notice that certain things that it does are automatic. Like as you're typing it in, anything in blue on this page is manual entry. And then everything else is pretty much calculated. Like if you look at the alkalinity, that's calculated, but you can confirm that against your water report to make sure that it's accurate.
Yeah, this is actually a page that I need to start diving into a little bit. I got some time here, so I might have to dive into the spreadsheet and figure it out a little bit more.
See, this is exactly where your water profile cloud data gets put into, Polly.
Okay. Interesting.
So this is going to make all the difference for you.
Yeah, but Beersmith has made the difference for me. So
there you go. Point taken. All right, we're good. Next one.
yeah.
All right. More starting point. Starting water pH. This is another data point coming off your water profile spreadsheet. George, what did you say your pH was? 6.9?
6.9, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So again, here you set your starting pH, you set your target pH, and your target pH is really going to depend on the type of beer that you're making. Certain styles, like a more basic water versus a more acidic water, and it just depends on how much you are doing there. But you type in the information here, and the most important ones that you have are your starting pH and your acid strength. Which if you buy lactic acid from most places, it's going to be 88, which is pretty strong acid, but easily worked with as well. So 88% lactic.
So I think this default changes just based on what the acid is. No, I'm wrong. Never mind. You do have to manually input that. Okay.
Yeah. So like I said, phosphoric acid is another option. It is, however, aggressive.
It is very aggressive and a little bit dangerous.
Yeah. So
so
definitely would suggest.
What are the other drop downs? Sulfuric acid, citric acid. Some people use
citric acid is an option. Yeah.
I admit I know nothing about these other two, tartaric or malic.
I know the names, but only in scientific, settings. So citric acid. Go ahead, Paulie.
All I know is we sell those acids at the world famous Brew and Grow in Bolingbrook, Illinois.
Ah, right on.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't have a scientific background, lactic acid's your easiest way to go.
I agree. All right. Yeah. Next. All right. Let's get into brewing recipes. And that's exactly where this is at. So at this point in the calculator, you have all of your water profile information, and now you're moving on to your recipe. That's what we're looking at here.
So your recipe, you type in literally what you're putting into your beer. So you on the left-hand side is pretty purely for your information of what kind of grain it is. The next column in column B is the type of grain. There's 3 different types that you'll have in there, either base malt, crystal malt, or roasted malt. And base malt is pretty much, less than 5 Lovibond. Crystal malt is between that and I think it's like 100. And then anything above that is roast malt. And so you set that as part of that because it takes it into account because roasted malts versus base malts are going to affect your water in different ways that it knows and takes into account. And I don't know off the top of my head, so don't ask me. And but the important part is if you have a crystal malt or you have a roasted malt, mark them as such. And if you're not sure, if it's a specialty grain and you're not sure it's a roasted malt, most of the time it's going to be a crystal malt. So go ahead and mark it that way. Beyond that, you type in the quantities, both pounds and ounces. And sorry for our metric friends, they do not have an option, as far as I know, for metric weights. So you're going to have to do some conversion.
Freedom units only.
Freedom units only. And then,
let's also reiterate that on this page, you're only having to input the values here in these blue cells, besides the ones that map out your actual grains themselves.
Correct.
Other than that, these yellow fields, all you're doing is reading off these. No inputs, no nothing.
Right. So the last one that's important is the Lovibond. So one thing of note here is Beersmith versus what you order in the store can sometimes be a little bit different. So if you order something like if you order a Crystal 60 and it's not 60 Lovibond, something went wrong. But if you order a Vienna malt and Beersmith says it should be a 5 and you get it and it's a 7, type in what you got, not what you put into Beersmith or Brewer's Friend or whatever, so that you get the most accurate calculation.
Okay.
That's everything here, isn't it? Okay. Okay. Let's talk about this right here. So based on the water inputs and the grain inputs, no additions will leave you with a mash pH of 5.45 in this example right here. Now, while every recipe and every profile is going to be different as far as to what the ideal pH is, it's worth considering that the healthiest mash pHs will be somewhere between 5.3 and 5.4. Am I wrong?
For most beers, you're right. Yeah, and even depending on how you're doing your sour beers, most of the time the mash pH will still be in that range.
Okay, let's just save the sour talk for the actual sour episode, please. I think our listeners are smart enough to not be delving into that.
Oh, I was going to get ready.
What I'm saying is you're not trying to overly
into that tank in the back that you see over there.
Yeah. I may have just made some enemies saying that.
No, I mean, my only point in saying that is most of the time you're not trying to overly acidify your mash.
Exactly.
You want to do that afterwards in your kettle or afterwards in a secondary type situation. So.
Right. There's a little guidance right here on the calculator itself. 5.3 to 5.4 for lighter colored beers, darker colored beers, 5.4 to 5.6.
Yeah, I know
exactly what we were saying.
I know for a fact my the light lager that's in that tank right here is I started boiling it at 3.8 actually. That's when I did my kettle sour. So. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's kettle sour. That's my light lager. I'm calling it shoe wag.
Right on.
Oh, yeah. I brewed that today. And, my buddy's here from Colorado. So.
Right on.
If I disappear, I apologize. But I got
welcome, Paulie's buddy from Colorado.
Yeah, he's at the bar right now ordering a beer. So.
Oh, okay.
If I disappear, that's why I disappear. I'm sorry.
That's all good. Totally understand.
Hey, sorry, Jason. One real quick on row 20 there, you'll notice the mash color setting. That is a drop down, and most of the time, especially in the U.S., you will see it'll be level bond. However, and we can't see the drop down unfortunately, but there is the other option, which Jason, help me out. I can't remember what it's called. EBC, yeah, which is used much more in Europe. But if you are working with EBC, obviously make the change. But most of the time, level bond is going to be the right setting.
Absolutely. Ready to move on?
Mm-hmm. Ready to move on.
All right. So what does this all mean? This is the...
double click home and collapse your ribbon?
How's that? Oh, home and collapse the ribbon. Yes, I should. There we go.
There you go. That's better. Okay.
Good. All right. This is where everything hits home.
Yeah. This is the meat and potatoes.
Exactly.
So water additions are not just for the main mash. You can do water additions and should do water additions to your sparge water as well.
Yes.
So the very first thing I always do on this calculator is not go up to the desired water profile, but I enter in the water volumes of mash, sparge, and total batch.
So let's just play around with these. So for a 5-gallon recipe, let's just say you're using 6.7 pre-boil, and then, so this isn't calculating itself, which is okay. What's that quick math?
No,
here?
and it won't, because the total batch volume is the total batch volume that you expect to get out of it. It's not it's not a calculation based on sparge and and mash, and that's to take into account boil off and things like that. Because if you're doing 90-minute boil versus a 60-minute boil, you're gonna have different total batch volumes. So
I did not know that. So you taught me something tonight, George.
okay,
Cool.
So anyway, then once that's in, then I will go up to the desired water profile. And unfortunately, you can't see when Jason pulls this down, but
Yeah,
there
that
is an
sucks.
endless amount of.
Let me just read off these:
different
amber
profiles
balanced,
in there.
amber dry, brown full, brown balanced, brown dry, and the same pattern applies for black colored beers, pale colored beers, light colored beers. I want to say the number of profiles here is probably, oh my gosh. Well, these are just beer style profiles. There's probably 20 to 30 of these, and then they have a different archive of actual city profiles. So you can replicate,
so Jason,
if you
wanted
wanted to
think about it. Scroll down on this page.
Okay. Okay.
Because when there's all the profiles.
66.
And, so there's a lot of them in there, and that's when you do the pull down, that's what it's matching against. So at a
basic.
Yes, exactly. Oh.
Yeah, but this.
George has really good brewing water, but he does not have great brewing internet connection.
It's true. It's so true. But yeah, so the question you have to ask yourself: all right, so most of the time you want to match against like, okay, am I making a dry amber ale? All right, so use amber dry. Am I making a stout that is like with lactose and everything? Then there's a profile for that too, based on the color and the type of beer you're making. If, however, you want to match it against a city, I believe Burton-on-Trent is in there. Yeah, it's down there, Burton boiled. You can match it against Hogarden. You can match it against Brussels, and try to say, all right, this is the water for those cities where they make all that good beer. Why don't I match it against that and give it a shot? And you can absolutely do that.
Shout out to Dublin, makers of Guinness. So
God.
For all the Guinness fans out here, here's the Dublin water profile.
When I do my dry Irish stout, I am totally mirroring Dublin. Like last week when I was doing my Hefeweizen, I was trying to figure out because I was playing with the Beersmith profiles. I was thinking about trying to do some German stuff. And I think, what?
Here's the problem with doing that. There's nothing to say that those companies that are making beers in those areas aren't doing their own water chemistry when that water comes in.
Yeah, that's true. But
I believe very strongly that for all the home brewers and users out there, I would use these bottom profiles like amber, brown, dark, amber. Those, I feel like those are a lot more meaningful than replicating a city, because that may not be representative of what the beer has.
So does Brew & Water, does it have a hoppy,
So it has a pale ale setting. That's the one I know about.
All right, because I know Beersmith, they have a hoppy pale ale IPA profile, and I know like our buddy Sean that's been on the show before. He's they made their own water profile as they wanted to use in Beersmith.
Okay.
So you could build your own water profiles too. Just like how you and I, Jason, when we were doing the Burrow project, we were trying to build a water profile.
Yep.
Something that.
Yep. This is exactly what we used.
Yeah,
this exact page.
Yeah, I know. I looked at you like, what the hell are you doing here? Go to Beersmith. I know that shit.
This is what I know. But they both accomplish the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah, we can do a follow-up episode if people are interested in using the Beersmith water profile calculator. But it gets you to the same endpoint that this piece does right here.
Yeah, but
when George comes back here, we'll talk about these.
See, but my thing is like these. I mean, granted, it's the science part of it, but
yeah,
like an artist, like I am, or artiste. I just look for the okay. I know what I'm looking for. Like I know Beersmith. You have like when I did my amber. Like, hey, did I bring you did I bring you the amber or no? I know I brought
Yes.
you.
Yes, the amber was very good.
I used a full-bodied amber profile off of
Yeah.
Beersmith with that one.
Right
So,
on.
so I'm starting to figure out this water profile stuff, even though I fought it for almost 10 fucking years. But
Well, and you can also see the difference in your beers, correct?
yes, I can.
Yeah.
I can see a difference in flavor and everything.
That's awesome. So, not knowing where George's internet is taking him, let's go over this a little bit. So, I built this initial water profile based on a Marzen recipes that I was making, and the water profile here is amber balanced, and you see that the numbers just don't quite equate because my mash pH is a little bit too low. Looking at the water profile, let's see where it gets thrown off. My bicarbonates are way higher than what the base profile is supposed to be, and sulfites are too low, and chloride is too low also. So what do I need to do to compensate for these select areas? Well, this is where these elements come in. So
add more calcium chloride.
add more calcium chloride, exactly, because that's where that's going to build into that. So 0.2 so far, changes to 0.4. All right, we're getting higher. Okay, got it. My pH is still too low. What lowers my pH is the acid. So we talked a lot about lactic acid earlier on in the episode. This is where kind of the rubber meets the road with that. So we've got 0.6 milliliters per gallon. That is too high based on the low setting. So let's just cut that in half. Change it to 0.3. Oh, what a difference that made. 5.16 out of scale to 5.3, which is well within scale.
So, but the one thing you'll notice is it's a balancing act because as you did that, it raised your bicarbonates in your mash profile.
Exactly.
So
okay. So all right. So let's find out how do we get rid of that. So we have baking soda as an addition in the water profile. Let's just get rid of that because that's just extra bicarbonates, which based on building here we just don't need. So
correct.
Low. So we're getting closer. 77 down 40. Okay. So let's go up just a little bit. Let's just say 3.5. Getting closer. See, we're still all right. So this is the way it works. It becomes a balancing act.
Right.
So we
match your.
Yeah, we corrected our bicarbonates, but as a result, we threw off our pH by a little bit too much.
Yeah, you threw off your pH by a little bit too much, and so in my mind, pH is a little bit more important than bicarbonates. So if you have to have a little bit more bicarbonates than you should to get your pH in the right range, that's probably okay. And
Agreed.
this is one of those things you can drive yourself crazy with. Like, I'm 3 off, but no, don't knock yourself over the head about it. Just. It's getting in the range, getting in the target to make sure you have the best water that you can.
Exactly.
And so yeah.
And this is literally all it is just changing these calculations here.
Mm-hmm.
And don't forget about these water additions right here. We talked about that earlier. It's worth bringing up again. Your mash water volume, your sparge water volume, that makes a lot of difference in what these final values come out to be.
I guess my only thing I would add to it is because I can't adjust my sparge water because I go off my hot liquor tank. I put all my sparge water additions into my boil kettle as I'm collecting, if that makes sense.
I mean, that accomplishes the same thing.
Because
sort of.
My whole thinking about this is, all right, if I add this into my mash, I can't add it to my sparge water because that's going to change everything because I don't empty my hot liquor, my HLT, my hot liquor tank.
Right.
I'm never using that.
Right.
I would rather put that in the boil because then now I have treated water. Like say I'm doing another brew day and then I'm filling it back up, and granted it might be diluted, but still there's all those minerals in the said water that is not, calculated. And now next thing you know, maybe I could be doing a brown ale one day and the next brew day I'm doing a dark stout, and that water profile is throwing everything off. So I'm just screwing up my water profile on it. That's why I add it to the boil.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not exactly the same, but it's pretty close. I'm not exactly sure what the difference is going to be, but I know there is going to be a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be too much that you have to worry about it too much, Polly. Jason, scroll back up real quick. There's one more thing on this page that is really nifty. So you see the RO water there, the dilution water. You can tell it what kind of water you would dilute it with should you have to. So if you have let's say you have a system in your house that can make RO water, say a gallon at a time, you can dilute your water with RO water, and it will take that into account. And if like Jason or Polly, if you're making a lighter beer and you want to reduce some of your bicarbonates, you can you use your water and then dilute some of it with RO water in order to be able to drive those down prior to any treatment.
Good call.
Okay, I get that.
I admit I've never used it before.
I've not either, but I know it's there as an option.
It makes absolutely perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, I mean, this is where you'll spend most of your time when you're using this spreadsheet. But then the really nifty part is the next tab.
To me, I think this is the nifty tab.
Why is everything in blue?
Sorry?
This is the next tab, George. What am I going to?
The adjustment summary.
Oh, shoot. Thinking too hard. Okay, yes, you're right. All the work is going to lead up to this. You're right.
Yeah. So this is the really nifty tab because this is literally I'll do all my calculations and then I'll print this out.
Yep.
And this is what goes in my book along with my recipe that I made. And this is what I have as I have my prep bowls with my different minerals in them. And that's how I take care of that. And it has everything you need on here. It has some information about your estimated mash pH. It has your existing versus your mash water profile. But then at the bottom, it has to the point gram of how much you need to add in your water. And if you scroll down, I think to the bottom of that, you'll see the lactic acid additions as well.
Oh yeah, that's right here.
Mm-hmm.
I need to learn this lactic acid because I got a big jug of lactic acid here that I haven't touched in 3 months. So
well, what acid are you using right now, Polly?
I'm not using any acid.
You're not using anything. Okay. All right. Well, your bicarbonates are a little bit low. Yeah. So, and that's working in your favor. So I think your acid additions will be somewhat minimal, but it's going to be some.
Well, honestly, with my beer smith, the only thing I've ever added to anything is gypsum, calcium chloride, baking soda, and what's the other one? I'd have to look at my fucking desk here.
Epsom salts?
Magnesium chloride?
Epsom salts, yes.
Epsom salts. Okay.
Epsom salts. Okay.
Because I always exclude chalks when I'm adding stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
And I do too. And actually, a lot of the calculators you'll find, especially like I think Beersmith with its auto calculation has an exclude chalk from it because
yes, it does.
People have problems with using chalk as an addition. So It's definitely one that I recommend avoiding. I have started using pickling lime in mine.
Pickling
just because I
lime?
can pick it
How
up.
was that?
Yeah. Well, it's if you want to make pickles, you need pickling lime, and it's
Does your beer taste like pickles?
no, because the tasty
I mean,
pickles come
makes
from
sense.
the spices and everything, but no, it's just the pickling process. So adding a little bit. If you go back to the water adjustment, I think pickling lime adds, what is it, sodium and magnesium?
Pickling lime will add. We can go back to the water adjustment page and we can find out exactly. Calcium and bicarbonate.
Yeah, calcium. Yeah, calcium and bicarbonates. So then that's a big reason why I'm using it, because I'm so low on bicarbonates. So if I'm making a darker beer and things, it's a way that I can add bicarbonates in without adding sodium, because I was getting it mixed up with baking soda, like baking soda does. Baking soda will add sodium and bicarbonates, whereas pickling lime will add calcium and bicarbonates, which with my water is sometimes a little easier to manage.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's brewing water, and
That's
honestly,
brewing water, and that's, I mean, I feel like that's the water chemistry that all the home brewers out there listening need to know.
Yeah.
yeah,
Get your
Yeah.
water report and figure out some tools. Best way to do it.
Here we go.
yeah. All in all, it'll cost you an entry fee of about $60 for the water report and minerals,
Yep.
and then yearly it's gonna maybe cost you $10 after that.
Yep.
So
Well worth it.
yeah.
So
well worth
Sean
it.
made mention of this in the chat, and I think it's worth repeating here for all the listeners. We talk a lot here on A Nice Place to Brew about going from being a good brewer to being a great brewer. This is one of those things that can take your home brew from good to great, is paying attention to this and managing it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of a couple of tools out there. That's all you need to be managing this properly.
Yeah.
So we've got it
And
here
if
in
you
the.
really want-
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to
Okay,
refer to
gonna
the
say, if you
link.
really- Oh yeah. Okay, so we put the link in the chat here for Brewing Water. But what I was gonna say is, if you really want to dig into it a little bit, the last tab in the Brewing Water calculator, the Water Knowledge tab, actually has some decent.
Really, Jason?
Actually has some really good information on how dissolved minerals affect the beer and different minerals versus beer styles and everything. So it's worth a read, in my opinion, especially if you do have insomnia. And yeah. All right.
Quit snoring.
All right.
You're making me yawn, Jason.
Yeah, okay, I should just yawn. Would that get the point across?
Yeah, I get it.
I tell you, if you have a attention span for this level of detail, I'm jealous. I really am. I know, and I'm not joking when I say that. I really am envious because I just don't.
Yeah. So the Brewing Water is free. It does, however, have a supporters version, which allows you to get a little bit more granular with it. You just have to donate, and I don't think they have a floor on what you donate. So just like, buy them a cup of coffee is all they're asking, and you can get a little bit more granular.
And we lost him.
Wah, wah.
Why is it like last week when he was running, he was fine, and now
some weeks are just better than others for George's internet.
Yeah, it's true. And if you really want to get deep in the water stuff, like Brian says, read the water book.
Yeah, that's
of
true.
Water, malt, hops, and yeast.
George, you have.
It's I have, and it's worth it. But if you don't have the attention span for this, don't try that.
Yeah, that book would take me like 3 years to read it.
You and me both. Yeah.
5 pages in, I'm like, all right, I'm starting to drink now because I'm bored. So.
Meanwhile, I'm reading it on a beach.
You're stronger than I am.
Right.
I mean that sincerely. All right, there you have it. The Brew and Water Calculator, everybody.
Yep.
Again, good beer to great beer.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Managing your water chemistry is one step in that direction. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I think we mentioned this before, but Brew and Water is not your only option. There's Beersmith has the automatic calculator built in, which is pretty good. And Brewer's Friend, the website Brewer's Friend, I believe also has a water calculator on it as well.
Oh, Brewer's Friend's got a lot of good stuff that I actually, even though I didn't pay for, the brewery paid for Beersmith. I still refer Brewer's Friend for a bunch of other calculators out there, like the yeast calculator and the
they've got a lot of good stuff on there.
Conversion. That's like my biggest thing right now is like learning how to brew on a pro scale, and everything was all on bricks,
Yeah.
And now then I converted to home brewing, and that's what we all know. And now here I am trying to go to both of them. Like talking to you guys, I can tell you like, okay, my gravity was 1060. I talked to my pro guys. It's like, yeah, my gravity was 14, 15. That's
Play-Doh. Yeah,
the Play-Doh thing.
Yeah.
Bricks.
I mean, it's kind of a big change, and to make yourself a better brewer, it's good to learn both of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
In case you get lucky, you want to go pro, and happens like me, and now I got to figure out both this shit again.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of other pro brewers, our friend over at Nick and Ivy's did his first double mash today. I was talking with him earlier today.
Chad?
Yeah, and he did a double mash, seeking a target of 1080 for a double IPA, 1083, and he got to 1080. He did have to add just a little bit of DME to it, just to compensate for some true up water he had to add in. But all in all, it was pretty successful for him. So
double mash.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, I'm gonna have to.
And he's got that
about this,
crane system.
He does. Yeah,
So,
that's
that
industrial size
cool.
brew in a bag.
That thing is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is very cool. Yeah.
Like I've been over. Like I was just there on Saturday. Actually, I was getting ready to head home, and I stopped by there, and I saw Paul, Chad's boss. So it was actually kind of cool to talk to these guys.
Yeah. And so, like, pretty much everybody that's commenting right now is echoing what we're saying. Is like Brian just said, water adjustment propelled my beer to the next level, and you're welcome for covering the Brew and Water sheet.
Yeah, glad to.
It's one that Jason and I have been using for ages, so we definitely endorse it.
Absolutely. Well, it's worth mentioning that this is a nice place to brew. This is all things beer and beer making, and today's topic was water. We intend for this weekly webcast and our audio podcast under the same name, A Nice Place to Brew, to be exactly what we covered today. This is meant to be a resource for home brewers out there to take their beer from good to great, and water is one of those elements to be able to do that. So. We do our webcast every Thursday here on the YouTube channel. It's accessible on Facebook as well. Our back catalog is available on our YouTube channel. We've been doing weekly episodes since the beginning of COVID-19. We've got a lot of past episodes, so if you can't wait till next Thursday to see me, George, and Polly again, check out our back catalog. Check out our audio podcast as well. under the same name, A Nice Place to Brew. It's available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and all the places you get your podcast from. Our social media links are A Nice Place to Brew and Nice Place to Brew, and we have a website that's growing. It's called www.aniceplacetobrew.com. We have a section of the website called Tips from the Semi-Pros. George, do you want to talk about this briefly?
Oh, no.
Tips from the Semi-Pros is something. Yeah, it's something that we're really going to start pushing here in the coming year, and it's going to be articles and basically different tips from us of what that you can do to for your brewing. I mean, the very first one I think we talked about last time that I'm putting together right now is what do I need to get started. But we're articles on water chemistry, walking through a water report will definitely be on there. How to use brewing water and just different things like that. So definitely keep an eye out for that, and we'll let you know as things develop there.
Thank you. This is our last webcast for 2020, and what a year it's been. I think we're all looking forward to 2021, and we are carrying this weekly webcast into the year 2021, and we look forward to bringing additional content to everybody. We appreciate all of your comments and interactions. You can leave us a comment during our broadcast or outside of our normal broadcast times. We do watch the YouTube and Facebook page for additional comments. You can message us on one of our social media platforms as well. We do pay attention to those areas. And other than that, we will be back here next Thursday at the same time, 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Hope everybody has a very happy New Year. And we end every broadcast the same way. We all raise a glass, and we invite you to join us. And we say, it takes a lot of good beer to make great beer. Cheers.
Cheers. And if you have a topic you want us to cover, let us know.